Hello and welcome to the Weekly Scroll podcast. My name is Ryan, and today we have a returning guest with us today. That is Kayla Dice of Rotwave Gamehouse. How are you doing today, Kayla?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm feeling excited to be back, and I've been a little poorly, but I think I'm starting to get on the mend. So I'm feeling better, and that's nice.
Good, fantastic. Yeah. So it's Zine month, it's ZineQuest, it's Zine whatever, it's February, and we're doing Zine stuff, and you have a project out that is Ritual Magic for Besties that we're going to talk about today. But prior to that, for those that maybe didn't watch the episode when you were on before, which was episode 97, wrote it down. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, about Kayla Dice and Rotwave Gamehouse and whatnot?
So I'm Kayla Dice. I am a tabletop game designer living in London. I've been releasing games since December 2020. I tend to say that all of my games in different ways focus on themes of alienation and connection, really run the gauntlet in terms of like style, genre, and tone, but I think I come back to those sort of core themes just because they compel me, essentially. I am maybe most well known for a game I kickstarted last year, Terminal, a digital pirate action game inspired by The Matrix. I also might be well known for Transgender Deathmatch Legend, or Follow Me in the Night, A Cursed Radio. I was one of the winners of the Diana Jones Emerging Designer Award last year, which was a great honor. And in that time, I then ran a first Kickstarter that year. Now I'm running a second Kickstarter. I'd previously been working as a teacher as a day job, but this year, sort of since September, I've been attempting to make game design my self-employment. So I'm on a year-long experiment to see how I can make that work.
There we go. Yeah, so as we said, I don't know if I said episode 97 was the last time you were on, and that was for Terminal. That was when you were kickstarting your project last time. Super excited for that. As soon as I saw Terminal, I reached out and said, I really want to talk to this person. This looks fantastic. I know the digital is already sent. So here's my thing with Kickstarter. I back a lot of them, but I will flip through digital stuff, but I wait till I get physical stuff to really sit down and dig through it because I want to feel the whole experience in my hands. And I believe you said Terminal is going to print now at this point, right?
Yeah, it has been sent to print. So the digital, we did it sort of in waves, basically. I did the digital of the core book, and then because I wanted to give stretch goal writers time to respond to their edits and stuff, I didn't want to rush them, but also I otherwise had like the finished part of the game. So we put out that, then added the stretch goals. Then there was about a week period where I just was letting to see if anyone caught any errors or stuff they wanted us to fix. Then we sent to print. They have arrived at the warehouse of the fulfillment partner now, along with the GM screen, which also went to print because some backers ordered those. I don't want to give any like timetables because that's now in control of the warehouse and shipping and the fulfillment partner, and I don't want to make any promises on their behalf that they then go, Kayla, why did you say that? But it should be very soon. I'm excited. I'm actually much the same with definitely books over a certain size. I feel once a book passes 80 pages, for me, I'm like, I need to be able to have this physically. I need to be able to flick back in an easier way. Sometimes I know it's myself losing. So I'm really excited for it to get out there physically when it does. I'll be communicating with backers about everything. I'm really excited to hear about people getting it to the table because it was the biggest thing I made. It was a super challenging project in terms of it was the first time I worked with an artist, first time I worked with an editor, first time I hired other writers, and in sheer sort of scope, it was so much bigger than anything I'd done before. And I'm really proud of everything I did on it. I'm proud of everything other people did on it. And yeah, so I'm super excited to see it in people's hands this year.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm super excited to get it in hand. So at some point, if that's the thing when you back a Kickstarter project, and I've known after backing very, very, very many, is you get it when you get it. Just buy it and then have a surprise at some point. Check your updates every now and then. But it is right. It is ZineQuest. It is Zine month. It is Zine whatever. It is February. So you have a project going out right now. This is Ritual Magic for Besties, and it's not on Kickstarter. It is on Crowdfundr instead. But tell us about, I guess, what's the pitch for Ritual Magic for Besties?
So yeah, so Ritual Magic for Besties is a GMless game played with tarot cards where you play a group of magic users all gathering to cast a ritual spell. And the fuel for this spellcraft is the connections you have with each other. And then that leads into sort of essentially a series of rounds of a tarot game where you're playing cards to guide the ritual and look into each other and asking a series of questions which enlighten the deep and personal history you have together, and then you're using that to cast these spells. It's written and designed by me. It is illustrated by Molomoot, who I think has really gorgeous art style that in this book is really well suited, I think, to giving the sort of like magical realist slice of life tone that we have at play. And it's going to be presented in a sort of scrapbook layout. The campaign on Crowdfundr just covers, the initial goal just covers the editing and printing costs. There are no stretch goals for the campaign, and then everything that goes beyond that initial cost is just split 50-50 between me and Mol, and that is how we're getting paid for all of the work we're putting into this.
Okay. And so you did breach the initial funding goal, which you said is just covering printing. So at the very least, the book will exist. So that's fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the book will exist. Even if we don't go much further than this, I obviously really hope we do. But if we don't, we have this book, which we can keep selling forever at cons, zine fairs, things like that.
Yeah. So it's, you said the core mechanic is really using tarot cards and developing relationships with people. So when you're playing the game, is it the relationships that you Kayla have with other people, or is it that the characters in the game create with other people?
You definitely could play a game where you're just playing as fictionalized versions of yourself. I don't know how smart it would be. It might be a bit prone to bleed. The game has like a really fun character creation mechanic. It uses some previous material from, I should say, from one of my previous games, The Infinite Dance Floor. You sort of pick out your style and magical background. You draw a major arcana card to give your character a sort of high concept. And then with each of your characters, you map them on a chart where you place down everyone's characters and you're drawing lines between every single character and saying what these line means. So it might be, these people are exes, these people are siblings, these people are currently hooking up, these people are dating but not really publicly, they're secretly dating, these two people went to a youth group together, these two people used to work together. And you get this sort of messy layers because everyone connects to everyone. And then from there you build your characters. And in much, I don't know if you're familiar with like much sort of like belonging outside belonging games. Often they, near the end of character creation, have this moment of like ask one left, ask one right to help shade in the background you have with other characters in those games. So the questions are very inspired by that. They're often questions about things that your characters would already know, but are enlightening the dynamic you have. There's stuff like, why have you never trusted me? It's a leading question. There's this tag, there's this catch of like, okay, you've never trusted me. That's saying something about our relationship. And now you've got to sort of, volley that back and help build in this way. You could totally do it where you are playing yourself, but I think it could get get quite messy quite quickly.
It'd be interesting for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So going through the Crowdfundr page and talking a bit more about mechanics, we love mechanics here on the show. So the whole game happens, is it just 6 rounds total after character creation? Is that like the scope of the game?
Yeah, it's one of those interesting games where the length of it really sort of depends on how many players you have. You play a free player version, it's 6 rounds. A round is just every one player taking a turn where they are laying one minor arcana on someone's personal stack, and that's like, I'm making or strengthening a connection with this person to build this element of the ritual. And then you fill in that history and use that to say, well, okay, we shared this memory together where we're bird watching. I'm putting a feather in the cauldron for this enchantment, which is going to grant someone good luck for their job interview tomorrow, or it is going to help sort of someone have a physical transformation that is gender affirming for them in some way. The round structure is partly just a case of structuring play. Basically, it's the 6 rounds around, or in the occasions where everyone gets stuck and is unable to play, in which case you have to resolve in fiction. Well, what does this look like where we are unable to bring ourselves to complete this ritual? Do we go again? Do we call it and give up? Why weren't our characters like in the right headspace for this almost?
It's interesting. It's really so there's this kind of almost inception-y meta-ness to like sitting around playing a game about people sitting around like doing a ritual, which is interesting.
Yeah, it was a thing I really enjoyed about the game, and definitely writing it in sections where I'm like setting up a ritual, which is setting up the game, but also, you know, it's an interesting question where I say, oh, whose character facilitated this ritual? And that may be the same answer to the question, who's facilitated this game night you're playing? It's not LARP. I don't have a LARP background, but I think it does, it creates like a situational sort of like proximity to the things you're playing that I guess is something you see a lot in LARP, maybe not always in TTRPGs, which are often more about big adventures.
Yeah, but I think it definitely will feed the vibe really, really well, because I can imagine people coming to the table, you know, especially when you're gonna be a character, like sitting around doing a similar thing. It would be a nice connectiveness to the process.
Yeah, I can imagine someone, you know, they've got their personal tarot deck, they've probably lit some candles, and probably when it comes time to describing, well, what room are our characters doing in, I imagine a lot of people go, probably one just like this.
Yeah. So tarot decks, absolutely, I mean, absolutely makes sense. This is a game about doing ritual magic, so tarot deck makes sense. But what made you kind of lean towards, I know you mentioned belonging outside belonging, great, fantastic game, by the way, the two together in one. But what was your impetus to kind of borrow from that system a bit, or
some of it, honestly, I think it's just my background in design and in gameplays often does hew more towards the belonging outside belonging space. I've written one previous belonging outside belong game to embrace a swamp creature. One game I'm working on for this year called Psycho Dungeon is also actually loosely inspired by that system. The method of establishing backstory via questions, it's something I've really associated with belonging outside belonging, but I used it in Terminal because I just think, well, this is a great way of shading in these character backgrounds. I think it's the kind of setup I just naturally go to when I want to say these people already know each other. So we should know, we as players, it's really useful if we know about why they know each other and how they know each other and what they think about each other. And it's just, the way that made most sense to me.
Gotcha. Gosh, I had a question and then I was listening to you and it completely escaped my brain. So what was the impetus to create a game about doing ritual magic with your besties? Like where did the initial kind of seed come from for this idea?
It's interesting. I remember it was a case that I borrowed a deck of tarot cards from a friend of mine, and was messing around, I guess, just sort of seeing what kind of like gameplay elements it could. It's not really usually how I design, of going like, oh, what could I build around this mechanic? I'm usually far more, I have this idea for this thing, what mechanics support that? But in this case, I was just playing around with cards, and I got into this idea of like, well, what is it if you were conducting a ritual? And initially, I'm a really big fan of the comic book series Phonogram by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey. And initially, it was going to be more of a closer riff on an element in the third series of Phonogram, which focused on someone having made a deal, selling part of their personality, and having reinvented themselves. And initially, the ritual it was going to be about was always a reinvention. You were going to always be asking questions about one character who would then be burning parts of their personality or history. But as I developed it, I kept thinking like, oh, this doesn't entirely feel like these characters doing a healthy thing. I feel people playing it, which can be interesting, but I feel like people playing the game would most often go, I don't know if I'd encourage my friend doing this. So it sort of stopped me at that point. I liked this idea of a ritual, and I began to expand, well, what are other kind of rituals? What could their aim be? And then it sort of took me into this space of ritual magic almost as an allegory for coping with your friends. You know, it is, let's go and order a pizza and get some drinks in because someone just lost their job. Let's help someone dye their hair and burn some photos because they've been broken up with. It became that sort of, yeah, just these sort of small, intimate moments. I think I do find interesting about the game is you could play it. It works very well for one shots. You could play it longer, but you'd only ever get the slice of life because you'd only ever see these characters round the kitchen table casting magic. You wouldn't see them going to work or stuff, and you'd keep sort of skipping forward in that. But yeah, it was born out of the mechanics. It was born out of experimenting. It took influence from Phonogram. It had some thematic influence from Wickedness via Possum Creek Games. And yeah, it was very much made in exploration. And then from there, once I had that idea, I approached Mol, who I'm a big fan of and wanted to work with for a long time, and said, you know, I'm thinking of this. How would you feel about drawing some sort of magical items? How would you feel about we make a zine together? We both do our writing and art and side for free and then split all of the money. And Mol thankfully was on board. And we went from there.
Yeah. I really like the idea you said of being able to do like longer campaigns where you just get slice after slice after slice, because you could almost redo character creation a little bit where it's just like what's happened since last time and like have these like new different or like strengthened connections. So that's a really interesting idea of just like, I don't know, you end up with a loaf, I guess, of life, but you know, just slices, you know. But it's an interesting concept for a game, especially like this, because if you're doing a ritual to like make something happen, it'd be interesting to see like the outcomes of that the next time you kind of jump ahead. So it's a really interesting way that it could go. One of the things, like one of the pictures on Crowdfundr and you talked about with the layout and stuff, is you said it'd go with like a scrapbook style for the layout inside. What lent you towards that idea?
It's interesting because Mol had already started working on, I think, some spot art by that point. And I think was in the middle of work on the cover. And I began basically thinking, well, I should figure out what I'm doing with the layout, partly because I wanted to have some sample layout pages on the Crowdfundr page for the launch. But I really wasn't sure. At one point, just because of the title, I was like, do I make it look like a magazine, like more explicitly like a sort of maybe advice or lifestyle magazine? But I didn't really have that reading background, so I was like, this would maybe be a challenging, and I can enjoy a challenge, but I remember thinking it might feel a bit hollow and imitative because I wouldn't be working in a space that I have affection and knowledge about. And I think coincidentally, I actually was at the point of going, oh, I should scrapbook some things because I have a scrapbook. Every year I sort of like keep any mementos, like film tickets, sometimes train tickets if they're like memories of people I've gone to see, scraps from like role-playing game stuff I've played. And I pin them on a board throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, I take all that stuff and scrapbook it. And I kept thinking, oh, I need to update my scrapbook. It's January. And just doing that made me go, oh, maybe that's what the layout for Ritual Magic for Besties looked like. So it was experimenting in that style, which led to the samples on the Crowdfundr page for making the book. When it's time to do that, I'm just waiting for a final draft back from the editor. I'm going to maybe do more from scratch. I'm going to be basically set up in a library with a scanner and some ripped paper and go from there. But yeah, I think I made it look quite sort of personal. It gave it like a nice sort of zine DIY feel, which I think felt good for the time of month that we're working in. But also, yeah, it gave it an intimate feel. Like it's not framed explicitly as someone's in-universe scrapbook, but it has that kind of feel, and then it lets us do some sort of playful diegetic stuff. So on one of the samples, the Ratwave Gamehouse logo is just like loosely stamped in and then written in marker next to it, rather than usually sort of integrate. I think I have some nice ideas about maybe modifying receipts and turning text on receipts into something when it comes time to actually make the game. I want to do something that basically, yeah, just feels very lively and diegetic, because I think that fits the theme, and also it lets me support Mol's brilliant art in a way that doesn't feel like I'm leaving all of the heavy lifting to Mol.
Yeah, it's really interesting with this kind of like not LARPing, but like as kind of close you can get in a TTRPG space. In kind of how we talked before, how you're sitting around doing a ritual as you're sitting around playing a game, which can be ritualistic, and even then the book itself feeling like it's kind of an in-world thing, but not quite. Like it's still a rule book, but it really lends those vibes. So it really feels that there's this kind of consistency throughout that closeness to the content of the game while you're still out of the game. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting kind of consistency across the space.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's probably one of the few games where someone could go, "Oh, I've just got to check a rule in the rule book," in a way that wouldn't entirely break immersion.
Yeah. It's interesting because I really like that idea too, because it could have easily been like a grimoire or something, you know what I mean? Like it would really still lean into that. But I can imagine if it's a bunch of besties sitting around doing ritual magic, I kind of like the idea more of it being like this scrapbook of someone's like, oh, let me see if I have this like the clip of a magic spell or something, as opposed to like somehow they got their Necronomicon or something, you know?
Yeah. It's definitely something. The game diegetically feels like how I feel about the game. If it's something personal, a bit raw, a bit sort of intimate, I think it's, you know, the sort of tender painfulness of being known by someone, and then the book itself is this sort of carefully constructed thing that. The book itself will be made very high quality, but I think the feel of it almost feels fragile, like it might sort of fly apart just in a design sense. And I think that it mimics a lot of the emotions I wanted out of the game.
That's great. And again, it's that really the closeness to playing the game and feeling the game. The vibes just feel like it's going to emanate from this. So you're doing ritual magic for besties in the game. Are there going to be like a number of rituals that people are able to do in it? Like, is that the kind of thing it is where you pick one of them and then are all around trying to complete that one? And then are there going to be listed ones?
So yeah, when there is the setting up the ritual section, which includes some starting sections just asking like, what are your characters doing? Who's hosting this? Describe the room you're doing it in. And then it's like, what ritual are you attempting? And there's a decently sized list that breaks down a lot. They're basically sort of, yeah, written as in-universe extracts. Someone's just musings on rituals. They're often quite sort of broad, but they're narrow, and you might imagine a specific situation you're crafting in there. So when we talk about, there's a section on, oh, magic's a transformation, and explains how rituals of transformation work. It goes, oh, okay, it's way easier on an object. It's way easier if it's temporary, but people can do, you know, full-lasting magic ritual spells on people that will, you know, that are not fading. And it talks about reasons people do it. And it goes, oh, it might be people, you know, wanting an authentic costume party, wanting a sort of temporary change of appearance, or people might be using it for DIY gender affirming care. And all of these things, yeah, they're mainly there just to give ideas, but they're also glimpses in how this world works. I think the game doesn't have this really hard setting with a bunch of rules or facts about it in the way the other games I've written have been, yeah, very sort of, you know, an anti-canon attitude in terms of like, once you take it to the table, it can be disregarded. But a canon in terms of, oh, here's a listed bunch of names and places that you can use. This more, it's a lot an implied setting. You know, it's an urban fantasy place. the character styles I'm having you pick for, the framing of it as slice of life, and then the way these rituals are described give just sort of wider hints about the world. There's on a section of communing with the dead, there's an anecdote about how courts might use ghosts as witnesses. And that's just giving a slight hint of like, what is this world we live in that we're playing in?
I really like that. Like that. I feel like that's a good way. I know we've talked numerous times about how the game is kind of pulling you into the vibes of the game, but it's also really nice to have that like little bit of distance from it as well, so you don't get like a ton of bleed or something into the character, but to go like, oh yeah, we could totally do this magic, and like people know that magic is a thing in this world that we're playing in, like having ghosts in a courtroom and things like that. It's a really nice little kind of twist to make it still feel like a fantasy world and it's in a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is. I think I don't necessarily always consider myself someone who's going for like allegory. I think like there are certain projects of mine where I look back and I go, oh, this is about that. You might argue like, oh, Terminal's about this theme. Some might argue, oh, transgender deathmatch legend, even if not explicitly, that's a bit about street harassment, but it's not a metaphor for it or an allegory for it. This one is definitely one where I think it is close to where you can go. You can see what it's an allegory for, but here is all this distancing element, so you're not going to just open some wounds at the role-playing game table.
And your counterpart in this project, Molomoot, they're the social media person for Soul Muppet Games. Is that how you originally came in contact with them and want to start working them, or how did you guys kind of develop this relationship to work together?
So me and Mol first met maybe 2 years ago, plausibly even like 2 years ago around this time. We met online. We were both in a playtest for a game by Soul Muppet, but before Mol worked for them even. And we just became friends through there. I've seen Mol's art before. I've wanted to work with Mol on a bigger project for a long time. Mol did work on Terminal. They were the creator of the map, which I think is really well done. But I'd always thought like, oh, it'd be really nice because me and Mol are great friends who get along really well and have now known each other for a while. I just thought, I'm someone who finds it really nice to create things with people I know and care about. And so I really wanted to be working with Mol. There were other times I thought of different projects. And so often the first name that come to my mind of would this work with Mol? And sometimes I'd look at it and go, no, it's not an exact match here. Well, for sort of various reasons. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if Mol would be interested in that. Other times it's like, I think this would be just a weird fit. But this was one, where once I came up with it, I thought, I think Mol would be great for that. And I was really glad that they wanted to be on board. And when they read through the book and came away feeling inspired, that was really exciting. And because it's such a sort of 50-50 partnership, in terms of directional stuff here, it's often me just asking Mol, like, what kind of stuff would you want to draw that would help sort of fill in the game, do as much or sort of as little as you want. And then, it's something I hope feels like a real collaboration, but it's still sort of in progress. The game is all written. It's gone through a first round of editing. It'll then go for a second, and then I'll be applying it into layout and working with Mol on the art as we sort of put the finishing pieces together after the campaign.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's love when projects are written by the time they get to crowdfunding. It's definitely the way to go. So it is Zine month. It is ZineQuest, and I'm always curious when people put out projects during ZineQuest. Kind of the thought behind it, because some people are like, I've been planning this for 6 months just for ZineQuest, and some are like, I've been planning a game, I guess it kind of fits, and some are like, oh shit, it's ZineQuest, maybe I'll do something. So when you decided to do Ritual Magic for Besties for ZineQuest, did the fact that it was ZineQuest come into your mind at all, or was just that timing well and it is Zine side, so you decided to do it for ZineQuest?
Yeah, so I'd been initially I'd had a different plan of what was going to be my next crowdfunding project after Terminal. I've been working on a game called 𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗏𝗏, which I've described as like a workplace fantasy action drama played with no dice and no masters. And I was looking at crowdfunding that. Basically, that project would have been way too big to run as a Zine Month project, and also I think it's one I will run on Kickstarter, so I need to wait until Terminal is finished so that I am clear to create another Kickstarter. And while I was working on this project as a game, and then I think in my initial pitch to Mol, I was like, we'll run this during Zine Month and do this 50-50 split. So I think that was a starting pitch then. Though I think at one point there was maybe a possibility of me just finishing the game. I think if Mol had said, I'm not that interested, I'd have probably just finished on my own. And I don't think I'd have run it as a crowdfunder, but running it as a crowdfunder with Mol on board, it just sort of gave a shape to the campaign. If it covers these initial costs, then everything's split. It wasn't planned that far in advance. I think I made the initial discussions with Mol about like, hey, would you want to do this in December? And then I think I set up the page, but didn't really have it properly clear ready for everyone to be seeing until mid-January. It was a quicker put together thing. And I don't think I would run this sort of stuff exactly the same way. I'm glad I'm doing it because, it means this game is getting out because you've passed that initial funding goal. But yeah, it was one that I not necessarily rushed because I think I set very sort of modest goals around there. I think I did enough with the timing I had to do all of the things I needed. But I don't think I got as much advance word around about the book that other people who've been, talking up their projects, for longer have been able to do, and that would have probably been beneficial. But I think for something that had like small, modest goals and not too much risk for us in terms of, we weren't going to be out of pocket if things did go badly. It made sense that I felt comfortable putting together on a shorter time frame. The idea of doing something like Terminal on this time frame would be terrifying, but I think it fit for what we were doing here.
Yeah, I mean that feels like the ideal ZineQuest project, right? Like that's what a lot of people are doing. I know some people put out these huge things, but when you have something that's like, this will probably work, and like you said, there's not a whole lot of risk involved. The funding goal is done, so at the very least it's going to exist. It's a great looking project, so it'll be out there in the world, and to get the experience not only for ZineQuest with a smaller timeline with a good friend, but to work on a different platform as well, because as we said, this is on Crowdfundr, not Kickstarter. I mean, it sounds like a good experiment and you still get a game out in the world at the same time. So
yeah, definitely it's been an experiment, and it's an experiment which we were safe if it did blow up in our faces, to I guess continue the metaphor. And yeah, like I said, I'm trying to sort of shift to being just self-employed and make that sustainable. So that relies on making a lot of experiments in this year and seeing what can work out.
There you go, exactly. After this project is done, I mean, we get Terminal will get to people's hands at some point. It's out of your hands at this point. This, you said, is written, past editing, and is just going to get to layout and get out then. You had already mentioned a project you were working on next, but what is the next thing that we can expect from 𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗏𝗏, from Wave Game House? If you want to talk a little bit more about that at all, if it's 𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗏𝗏 or something else.
Yeah, so I have a few projects coming up. Terminal will be getting out physically, then Ritual Magic will also move into its sort of layout phases and go from there. The next big project then that I would like to be taking to Kickstarter sometime this year will be 𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏, which basically takes place in a world where when people's troubles and stresses reach a breaking point, they manifest as these dungeon-esque landscapes that just sort of blot in the world, and you play as a series of psycho plumbers who are sent into these places to clear them out and help close them by helping the affected clients sort of come to terms with what's going on. It's, you know, about being poor city folk working a job that is draining and messy and doesn't always pay well, but is also a thing that's important to do in the world. It's sort of, I describe it as part handyman, part therapist, part adventurer. It draws on a lot of experiences I had in working as a teacher in a sort of strange way. And it has a really cool style, I think, visually. It's going to focus on a lot of digital collage that I've made together, as well as mechanically being sort of descended from other belonging outside of belonging systems. That's going to be my next big project. From there, I have other things I'm excited about. I am looking at putting together Transgender Deathmatch Legend 2, a sequel/expansion that will come out this year. In terms of bigger projects I might end up working on towards the end of the year, I'm playing around with sort of time travel things or games, a sort of montage-based game built around big rivalries. But those are in the further off project where it's a lot of working through them, seeing how they're going. I think often the best way to find out what the random things I'm working on are to subscribe to my newsletter, which I think you can do at ratwavegamehouse. It's newsletter.ratwave.uk will get you it, and then I usually just share any work in progress details on things I'm up to.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my next questions. We have you have some amazing work. I really enjoy a lot of the stuff you've done. Like I said, I'm super excited for Terminal, excited for this, and Psycho Dungeon sounds fantastic. I love the idea of just like, I mean, you don't want someone to have enough trauma that they like somehow like bring a dungeon into existence that someone has to go through, but it's such a really interesting concept. So it sounds like a fantastic project. So I was going to say, where can people find you? And I have it on the screen there. I believe it's, so what I have is ratwave.uk, and that takes you to like the WordPress. Is that the newsletter on your website, or is it something different?
Yeah, so that's my big sort of website, which has a directory to digital store. It has information on where you can buy things physically, because I basically have books available for a couple of different outlets. From there, it also has a blog where I sometimes post things. It has links to the newsletter itself, as well as details on if you're someone looking to build a project. My freelancing rates and details are on there. And I'm trying to think if my website has any other things on it worth shouting out. But yeah, basically go to ratwave.uk and you can find everything you need to keep up to date with me, as well as then a link tree of all of the social media I'm on, because they're all sort of scattered to the four winds at the moment.
Yeah, now we have to have like 8 of them just to see which one survives. Yeah, it's been fun. Is there are there any shops where people can find your stuff? Because I know you're based in the UK. That's the assumption based on the ratwave.uk. But are there places in different parts of the world where people are able to buy your things, or shops outside of your website we can, like the
So yeah, so there are 3 places off the top of my head. Indie Press Revolution has physical copies of Transgender Deathmatch Legend available, and I keep meaning to send them an email and ask if they'd be interested in taking more of my stock. Soul Muppet, who have warehouse in the UK and the US as well, and so have rest of the world coverage, have a collection of some of my smaller zines and books where you can find there. And Plus One EXP was recently put out as part of their RPG Zine Club, a previous release of mine called Fear the Taste of Blood, which was a game of classic movie monsters. That's available via Plus One. So those are those 3 places. Basically, yeah, if you go to ratwave.uk, there's a section where it says where you can buy physically, and that includes links to those 3 places. I'm looking at, in the next couple of months, setting up my own storefront, which will also then be through the website, just so I can work on sort of some smaller projects of mine and get them out directly to people.
Gotcha. There you go. So Kayla, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. I'm sure this will not be the last time you've come on. Terminal was a fantastic project. Really excited to get that in hand. And this one looks great as well. Definitely go to Crowdfundr. We'll make sure that all of not only the Ratwave website is linked below, but that the link to Ritual Magic for Besties is in any of the descriptions, whether you're listening, watching, anything, so you can go back, so you can go and back that project right now. As we said, the project is completely funded already as far as printing it, but everything from here on out for the next, depending on when this publishes, the next 13 days, as of I think today's the 16th, you still have time to go back Ritual Magic for Besties. So please go do that. I'll support a fantastic creator who's putting out a lot of great stuff. So, again, thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it. And excited to have you on again in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. And anytime you'd have me back, I'd always love to be here.
You just let us know, and you are more than welcome. So so that's going to be us for today. That is a show. As we said, all the links for everything that we're talking about today will be below, as well as our links exist. They're there. If you've listened before, you can find them. But again, Kayla, thank you so much, and everyone out there, have a great day. Bye.
Bye.